Easy Dreamers, welcome to over 50 minutes of perfect English pronunciation. Today we're going to look at tricky words to pronounce, advanced pronunciation strategies, and lots of English sounds. Now, before we get started, I want to tell you about my free 5-day pronunciation challenge. In this challenge, you will learn the essential sounds of British English. It's an online course that's completely free and you can enroll today by using the link in the description. Okay? Let's get started. Welcome back to another lesson with me, Tom. Today we're looking at the 36 English words that you find impossible to pronounce. The first one, clothes. Clothes. This was sent in by 2 of you guys. And this one is super tricky. I've seen it mispronounced so much over the years as an English teacher. Clothes. Clothes. So that end sound there is a Z sound. So clothes. Repeat after me. Clothes. Clothes. Now, if you want a little cheat, because that one is quite hard to say and it's maybe you just can't do it, you could try close. Close, as in like close the door. Close and clothes sound very similar. And when you're putting them into a sentence, they're going to sound exactly the same. Okay, which one am I saying now? Clothes. Yeah. Clothes. Okay. Clothes. Clothes. More or less the same, right? Put it into a sentence. I bought some new clothes. I bought some new clothes. Which one did I say? Yeah, I actually said clothes. But it could have been clothes. Either one, when you put it into a sentence, it sounds perfectly fine. Lena also asked for rarely. Rarely. Tricky one, huh? So rarely. Chelsea Lovey asked for a town in England, Loughborough. Loughborough. Yeah, it doesn't look like it, does it? Okay, but you've got the F sound in that GH. Loughborough. And it's not borough, Loughborough, it's just Loughborough. This next one, literature. Literature. Oof. So let me slow that down for you. Literature. Literature. So that's a great piece of literature. That's a great piece of literature. By the way, guys, thank you so much for sending these in. These are great words. Okay, next one. Marvellous. Marvellous. So not marvellous, marvellous. We had a marvellous time. We had a marvellous time. Responsibilities. Responsibilities. In my new job, I've got loads of responsibilities. In my new job, I've got loads of responsibilities. Salome asked for 4 words and I've added another one. Okay, let's go through this one because this is often chosen as one of the hardest ones to say. So we've got an individual, jewel, jewel. So you've got that ooh sound, jewel. Then jewelers, jewelers. It's the place where you buy the jewels. A jewelers. And then jewellery, jewellery, jewellery. So jewel, jewelers, jewellery. This one's a good one. Museum, museum. So 3 sounds there. Museum, museum. I'm going to the British Museum today. I'm going to the British Museum today. And the next one, miserable, miserable. So it's not miserable, it's miserable, miserable. Oh, you look a bit miserable today. I hope you're not miserable today. Thank you for those, Salome. Fantastic suggestions, all really tricky words. I'm not going to try and attempt to pronounce this Instagram name. I apologize. Okay, but yeah, I see this one. This is quite tricky. So man and men. So man is singular, men plural. Now I think this gets harder when it's female. So you've got woman, woman, but you've got women, women for the plural. So woman, singular, women for the plural. So the w becomes we. So woman, women. Huh? What does that mean? Okay, I've got to look this one up. This means to be unable to be excited or upset or something like that. Okay, so you're quite calm. Okay, I get it. The pronunciation? Imperturbable. 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 That word's killing me. Imperturbable. It's a word that you probably will never use, but it's good to know. Imperturbable. 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 That's really fun, actually. Imperturbable. I am imperturbable. Go on, you can say it. I'm imperturbable. Elephantdags? I don't know. The word taught. Taught. It's the same sound as ought or fought. You'll notice there that I did say the T at the end, so taught. If I was saying it in more natural everyday speech, I probably wouldn't say the T, I'd say taught. Taught. That's because I dropped the T's, it's this kind of glottalization of T's. I think I taught that kid in year 6. I think I taught that kid in year 6. So I think I taught that kid, not I taught that kid. Alright guys, let's keep going. Okay, Jade asked for this word. This one I often hear mispronounced, especially in Spanish speakers, as focus. Focus. But it should be focus. 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 That's how I pronounce it. Focus. Second one, curious. 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 Oh, that's a nice word. Curious. Paulina asks about this word. Yeah, it's not easy. Girl. Girl. So you've got that dark L there. So what I'm doing there is I'm bringing my tongue in as I'm saying the word. Girl. Girl. And in fact, the front part of my tongue is kind of curling inwards. So it's kind of just going like this. Girl. Now this is of course in my accent, guys. There are many different accents that would say these words differently. I'm teaching you in my London accent. As I said, there are other varieties of ways to say this. For example, in a Cockney accent, you might say girl, girl, but I'm saying it girl because that's the way I say it. Okay, next one, failure, failure, failure. Yeah, that's a tricky one actually, failure. I was a complete failure at school. I was a complete failure at school. All right, this one often comes up in the 10 most difficult words to say in English, but I'm like, how often do you say this word? How is it important to say? Well, maybe it is for some people. The word squirrel, squirrel. I mean, maybe I say it a few times in a month because I live in a place where there are squirrels, but anyone else? I don't know. Do you live near squirrels? Okay, but the word is squirrel. 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 It's a nice word, in fairness. It's quite fun to say. Carla Fock asks for endeavour. Endeavour. So you'll actually notice there that the beginning isn't an E, it's an I sound. I. Endeavour. Endeavour. And then we end there with the schwa sound, so endeavour. Chopai Girly Girl asks for aristocratic. Aristocratic. So it's aristocratic. St-cratic. Aristocratic. The stress is on the end syllable. Aristocratic. Next one, exaggerated. Exaggerated. It sounds almost like egg. Exaggerated. Exaggerated. And flying on from that, exaggerating. Exaggerating. Okay? Exaggerated, exaggerating. Why are you always exaggerating about how tall you are? Why are you always exaggerating about how tall you are? Okay, it had to come finally. The word that is always in these top 10 lists. Crisps. Crisps. Woo. Okay, let's break it down. 2 sounds. Crisps. So it's crisps. 2 sounds. That's all it is. Almost like you're trying to get someone's attention. Psst, hey, come here. Psst, psst, come here. Crisps. We'll go get a bag of crisps. Yasminska, I hope you don't need to say this word very often. Murderer. 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 I hope it's a low frequency word. This is another hard one. World. World. So again, it's that dark L. World. So just like with girl, your tongue is coming in and down and back. Basically, girl. So this one, world. I want to travel the world. I want to travel the world. Okay, this is a nice one. Plagiarism. Plagiarism. This means to copy someone else's work, right? So, I was accused of plagiarism. I was accused of plagiarism. Okay, and finally we've got 2 words here. We've got sixth. Sixth. So it's sick, and then I finish with my tongue touching my top teeth, and I'm blowing air out. So sixth. And months. Months. Now this ends with the S sound, the S. So month. So that's that blend sound of going from the TH to then S. So for the TH sound, I've got my tongue touching my teeth, my top teeth, and I'm blowing air out, month. And then if I want to make that S sound, I draw my tongue down a bit. I hope that makes sense. That two very hard sounds. I know that a lot of students find those two very hard to do. So yeah, practice with that one. Sixth and months. Are you struggling with your English pronunciation? Well, I've got 5 super practical tips that I want to share with you today. If you haven't met me before, my name is Teacher Tom, and I help students of English learn fresh, modern British English so that they can communicate with confidence and speak like a local. My first suggestion is to learn how to pronounce the 100 most common English words. 50% of all English is made up from 100 words. That's it. 100 words makes up half of all spoken English. The good news is they are very simple words, and most of them you probably already know. The question is, do you know how to say them all correctly? For example, the word of. Well, it's pronounced of, right? Well, yes and no. Because when it falls in the middle of a sentence and it's an unstressed word, we pronounce it of. Of. Not of. Of. For example, the Republic of Ireland. Plenty of fish. Game of Thrones. As you can hear, they're all pronounced with that weak form of. So if you know that of can sound like of, and it can also sound like of, then you're much more likely to be able to understand proficient English speakers and sound like one. So just a little investment in the 100 most common English words will reap rich rewards. And why is that? Because you'll have perfected 50% of spoken English. My second tip is to find an accent role model. Someone that you know who speaks English the way that you want to. It could be someone you know, like a friend or a teacher. It could be someone that you don't know, like a public figure, for example, a politician or an actor. Choose someone whose accent and pronunciation you admire. Someone you can use as a model or a guide for your English. Now, this doesn't mean you have to change your accent or mimic them. It just means you'll have a model of English that you can use to develop and improve. It's a very personal thing, and each one of us will probably have a different idea of who we would like as an accent role model. One of my students used Gemma Chan, the British actor, as her accent role model. She chose her because she thought she spoke really clearly and she loved listening to her speak. Now, if you aren't sure who you would like to choose, check out my video, 20 British English accents in one video, and I'm sure you'll get some good ideas from that. Once you've got someone in mind, we can move on to my third suggestion, which is using a technique called mirroring. This is when we use a very short chunk of audio. We listen to it, we practice repeatedly to try and recreate the sounds as accurately as possible. So we do this for a few reasons. First of all, we're looking for natural pacing. How do they structure their sentences? Do they leave space between words or phrases to help them speak more clearly and fluently? We're also looking for connected speech. How do they blend these sounds and these words together? Now we'll get to connected speech in a moment, but first, let's use an example from Gemma Chan.
The live one's got away.
Okay, that was really short, wasn't it? I'd suggest listening to it a number of times to get a feel for what she's saying. Maybe slow it down if you need to.
The live one's got away. The live one's got away.
Then figure out what she's doing with the sounds. So, for example, she's using a glottal T on got, and then she's linking got to away. So it sounds like got away. Got away. She's also using a rising intonation at the end of the sentence.
The live one's got away. The live one's got away.
The live one's got away. So you hear that connected speech and linking, so got away, and that intonation as well, right? Live one's got away. Okay, let's do another sentence.
Yeah, someone picked them up in a van.
Okay, so let's analyse what we can hear. We've got a weak form on them, so it's them, and then we've got linking on up in a van. Up in a van. And there's a rising intonation at the end.
Yeah, someone picked them up in a van. Yeah, someone picked them up in a van.
Yeah, someone picked them up in a van. So even that yeah, it's kind of very natural, isn't it? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, someone picked them up in a van.
Someone picked them up in a van. All right, so mirroring techniques are just all about repetition. So it's all about understanding the space in the sentence, the linking, connection of all the words, and of course, the intonation. Now, this is a fantastic technique to use, particularly if you want to recreate those natural stress and intonation patterns that proficient English speakers use. Okay, I mentioned connected speech earlier, and that is my fourth suggestion. I want you to start incorporating into your spoken English because that's exactly what proficient English speakers do all the time. Connected speech is the way that speakers blend sounds and words together or omit sounds to sound more fluent. Now, we've already looked at a few techniques in this video. We had weak forms and we've had linking, but there are so many others. If you are new to the concept of connected speech, I would suggest just starting by noticing connected speech in proficient English speakers. Listen and observe. The mirroring technique that we looked at earlier is perfect for this. Take a very short clip, slow it down, analyze it, and see what's going on. Every proficient English speaker is using connected speech all the time, perhaps without even knowing it. You will too, you just have to start by building the foundations first. This leads me to my fifth suggestion, which is to find yourself expert help. If you want to build big muscles, you get a personal trainer. If you want to learn the guitar, you'd find a music teacher to show you how. And if you want to become a proficient English speaker, you need a good teacher. Find someone who knows exactly the areas that you need to improve on. There's so much information on YouTube and elsewhere, but a teacher's job is to help you identify the areas that you need to improve. Finding a teacher is a very personal thing. There are tons of teachers out there, but it's quite hard to find the right one for you. Now, I've been working one-to-one with students for over 15 years, helping them to become proficient English speakers, and I'd love to work with you too. If you're coming to the UK, you'll want to know how to pronounce the places that you visit. So today, I'm going to teach you 25 of the most commonly mispronounced places in the country, and I'll give you opportunities to practice saying them for yourself. And at the end, I'll show you how to pronounce this Welsh town. What the Here we go with number one, Bicester. It's a town to the west of London that's become really popular for outlet shopping. You can get some great bargains, guys. Now, the pronunciation, Bicester. Bicester. That CE is pronounced with a S sound, so Bicester. And we're going to see that pattern throughout this video. You try saying it. Number two, Gloucester. Now, this is a city in the west of England that is probably most famous for its cathedral, and it's actually where they filmed some of the Harry Potter scenes. Nice. Now, this pronunciation, Gloucester. We have that CE again, as we did before, and it's pronounced with a S sound. So, Gloucester. Your turn. Another example of this CE as a S sound is Leicester. This is a city in the Midlands, and we pronounce it Leicester. Now, this causes particularly Americans problems. I've heard Leicester or Leicester, and I get it. It looks like it should be that, but it isn't. It's Leicester. Now, you've probably heard this name either from the city or because in London, one of the central areas is Leicester Square. And that's our fourth place, Leicester Square. Leicester Square. Okay, can you say that for me? Okay, this one you'll want to know because it's the name of a popular sauce. No, not ketchup, you silly. Come on, Worcestershire. That's right, Worcestershire sauce. It's so good. Now let's work on the word. So Worcestershire is a county. A county is an administrative or geographical area, a bit like a state is in the USA or India. Now we've got that CE sound again, which is a S sound as we learnt before, so Worcester. And then we've got the suffix of sh, so S-H-I-R-E. Now when it comes at the end of a word, it denotes a county, okay? So we know if we see sh, okay, it's a county. And that pronunciation there, you heard it, it's with a schwa sound, sh. So it's Worcestershire, Worcestershire. Another example would be Yorkshire or Lancashire. You can hear that sh sound. Now, as for Worcestershire sauce, it's great as a marinade for meat or in your Bloody Mary. Okay, let's continue with counties and move to the west of London and Berkshire. Now, it looks like Berkshire, right? And yeah, maybe it should be, but actually we have an R sound there, so Berkshire, Berkshire. Okay, and while we're at it, let's do another county, Warwickshire, Warwickshire. Now, this one looks tricky, but actually it's quite simple because that W in the middle, we're going to just take it out. We don't need it. So Warwickshire, Warwickshire. So 3 syllables, really. Warwickshire. Now, there's a city called Warwick, which is famous for its cathedral and for its university. You say it like that. Warwick, Warwick. Let's hear you say that. Okay, number 8, we're moving into Scotland and the capital, Edinburgh. Edinburgh. Now, I've heard this one said Edinburgh, Edinburgh. Yeah, those could all be legitimate, but it's actually pronounced Edinburgh. Edinburgh. Bruh. That bruh sound on the suffix of B-U-R-G-H. And that G-H is silent, right? We don't pronounce it. Now, there are other suffixes that we have just like that one in other places in the UK. For example, Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough. So it looks like borough, but it's pronounced bruh. Bruh. Middlesbrough. And then in Yorkshire, there's a beautiful town called Knaresborough. Knaresborough. Now, if you're ever in York or Harrogate, there's a train line that goes between them, and Knaresborough is in the middle, and it's absolutely stunning. Definitely pay it a visit. Okay, things are starting to get spicy because we're moving to Wales, where there are consonants everywhere. It's mad. And to be honest, I think I'm going to butcher it with my London accent. And that's something to be aware of, guys, is that all of these place names are said in different ways. I'm just showing you how I say it in my London accent. But of course, there are variations in every place. For example, I say Newcastle, but in Newcastle, they would say Newcastle, right? Newcastle. The stress is different to how I would say it. So bear that in mind. This is just one variation. There are plenty of others. All right, so this is a Welsh seaside town, and it begins with the Swedish pop group ABBA. Okay, so we start with ABBA, and then Aberystwyth. Aberystwyth. That's how I say it. Maybe the locals will say it slightly differently. Aberystwyth. And whilst we're in Wales, let's tackle a great little town that's become really popular because of their football team and the Hollywood investors. Wrexham. Wrexham. Now, this is interesting because the W is silent, and also that suffix at the end, ham. This is one that we will find in lots of places in the UK. And we will say it, right? So we're using that schwa sound again. So Wrexham. Wrexham. Let's find other examples of that suffix ham. It's in the second biggest city, Birmingham. Birmingham. So it's not Birmingham, as I think the Americans would say about the city in Alabama, Birmingham. In Britain, in the UK, it's Birmingham. Birmingham. We've also got Nottingham. Nottingham. And there's a beautiful university city in the north called Durham. Durham. Again, that sound. Now, I've heard this one pronounced as Durham. Well, we're after Durham. It looks like it. It probably should be. I'm sorry, it isn't. It's Durham. Okay, our next one is not just difficult for visitors coming to the UK. It's difficult for us as well. There are debates about how you should say it properly. I say it Shrewsbury, but others would say Shrewsbury. So even we don't know. I'm sure there are some locals watching. Let me know in the comments. What do you say? Is it Shrewsbury or Shrewsbury? It's a big argument. I'm not getting in the middle of it. But what I'm interested in is that suffix of B-U-R-Y, Bury. Now, there is a town called Bury, but that's not how it's pronounced here. It's Shrewsbury. Bree. So that translates into other place names. For example, Canterbury. Canterbury. It's a cathedral city in Kent. Canterbury. And another example is the biggest music festival in the UK, Glastonbury. Glastonbury. Okay, try saying those for me. Okay, our next few take us to the seaside because when we have the suffix of mouth, it indicates a port or a harbour of some kind. So probably the most famous one would be Bournemouth. Bournemouth, and you can hear that it's not mouth as a suffix, it's muth. So Bournemouth, Plymouth, Falmouth. Bournemouth, Plymouth, Falmouth. Okay, this one is one that Americans generally get wrong. They would say Norwich, Norwich. And yes, it should be Norwich. But here's a little trick. Just think about porridge and add an N. So it's Norwich, Norwich. And it's a city in East Anglia. Another one that stumps Americans particularly is the East Midland city, Derby. Yeah, because I think in America they say Derby, Derby. And yeah, it's an E, so probably should be Derby, but we say Derby because we're really annoying like that, aren't we? Okay, so have a go at saying that. Okay, guys, we're here. This is the big one. There it is. Now, how do you say this town? This is the longest town name in the whole of the UK, and you can see why, right? I don't know how to speak Welsh. The couple of tricks I do know. Now, when you see a double L in a place name in Wales, the sound is it's a sound that we don't have in England, but yes, we do have it in Wales. So for example, there's a place called Llandudno, and Llanelli. Now, I am probably saying that terribly, but it's near enough, right? You can kind of get what I'm saying, right? So Llanelli and Llandudno. So this word is definitely at the beginning. Also at the end, I know it goes go-go-goch. The rest of it, I've no idea. So let's get a pro to show us how to do it. Okay, pretty impressive, right? Your homework is to practice that, okay? Have a go, and in the comments below, tell me how you did, yeah? Okay, but what does that place name actually mean? It must mean something, right? Well, it does. Let me read it to you. So it's Welsh, and it means St Mary's Church in the hollow of the White Hazel, near to the fierce whirlpool of St Cilio of the Red Cave. Sounds like something out of Game of Thrones. All right, guys, how did you do? I hope that was really useful. Now, remember, these aren't maybe the most difficult, but they are maybe the most difficult ones that are also the most common. Because we could have looked at tiny villages in faraway places in the UK, but you would never go there. These ones, at least, I think most of you, if you're coming to the UK, will see on a map. You might read it, you might hear it, you might even need to say it. And that's why I wanted to do this video today. Today we're going to learn about a common pronunciation feature in English that will not only improve your pronunciation, but it will help your listening skills too. And I promise we'll have some fun along the way. So if you're ready, let's do this. All right, guys, let's get straight into it. Now, here's a scene from a very well-known British TV show called Peaky Blinders. And I want you guys to focus on the detective, all right? And I want you to focus particularly on the stress he places on certain words. Can you do that for me? Okay, run the tape. You've been accused of impersonating people using terrible accents. I'm going to ask you some questions. What is your name? Stanley. Where do you live? Birmingham. What do you do? I'm a YouTuber. Don't be silly with me, boy. No, really, I'm a YouTuber. I'll ask you that again. What do you do? Sorry, can we just take a moment? Why are you reading the lines in that way? Doesn't feel natural, no. Yeah, I know what you mean. It sounds kind of unnatural to me too, yeah. You know, are you feeling okay? Are you a bit ill? Yeah, I know. But like, it's what the director asked me to do. Yeah, I'm not really vibing with it. Well, look, mate, you know, the director doesn't know you. You've got to show us you. Yeah, I know. Yeah, you've got this, buddy. Yeah, okay. You got it. I'm going to ask you some questions. What's your name? Stanley. Where'd you live? Birmingham. What'd you do? I'm a YouTuber. Don't be daft with me, lad. What'd you do? Okay, now let's take the first time the detective asks the question, what is your name? And then the second time, and compare the two and see how they're different. What is your name? What's your name? All right, can you tell the difference? In the first way he says it, what is your name? All the words are equally stressed. In the second time he says it, we have a difference in stress pattern, don't we? The first word is stressed, the second two words are not stressed, and the last word is stressed. Now this is a really common pattern that we have. If we look at the pattern, all those questions, they started with a WH word, so what, where, when. Then we had an auxiliary, okay, so do or is or are. Then you had a pronoun, so he, she, it. And lastly, you had a main verb. Now usually with questions like that, we would stress the main words, the most important words. And that would be what and name, right? Those are the two most important words. If I said to you, what name? You'd probably understand what I said. So we put stress on the most important words in a sentence. That's a rule that goes across British English pronunciation. So he put the stress on what and name. Now, what did he do in between? Well, in the first time, he put equal stress on everything. But in the second time that he said it, those two words were unstressed. The auxiliary of is and the pronoun your was unstressed. And a pattern we often find is that auxiliaries often are unstressed. Not always, but often. So if I said, where do you live? Where do you live? Well, I'm stressing all of them there, but actually, how would I really say it? I say, where do you live? Where do you live? So where takes the stress, do you kind of disappears, and live also takes the stress. But I want to go a bit deeper into this. Now there's an English language writer called Richard Caldwell, and he did a book called Phonology for Listening. And what he talks about here is that actually there are three ways that we might say a certain phrase or a certain sentence. There's the greenhouse, the garden, and the jungle. Now let me explain that to you. So in the greenhouse, this is when we're very careful. This is when we are saying each word individually with the same stress and pronunciation. So everything is given equal importance. So what does that sound like? What is your name? What is your name? Okay. Then we move into the garden, and the garden it's a little bit more connected. Okay, so it's not each individual word, but we are using connected speech. So we're using features like weak forms or linking, that kind of thing. And this is often taught in English classes. So it'd sound like, what's your name? So we are contracting what is. So what's your name, or what's your name? Maybe maybe as a weak form. What's your name? What's your name? Now, that's fine. Okay, that's common and people do use that in speech. And then there's a third type of pronunciation, which Richard Caldwell describes as the jungle. And this is the kind of pronunciation that we find in spontaneous speech. It's the one where the speaker just isn't thinking. They just speak spontaneously and they say things and they make mistakes, but they don't think about clarity. They just think about efficiency of communication. So they say something as quickly and as succinctly as they can. They're not necessarily focusing on making every single sound perfect. So what does it sound like? Well, it would be something like, what's your name? What's your name? Okay, so that sounds, those words now have completely blended, right? What's your name? What's your name? What's your name? What's your name? Now, when we are saying it like that, what's your name? It sounds completely different to what is your name. And this is the kind of pronunciation that in real life situations, when you're speaking to very fluent speakers of English, this is the kind of sounds that you're going to have to deal with. And he calls it the jungle because it's wild, it's untamed, it's not always perfect and ordered, it's a bit chaotic. So that's why he describes it as being the jungle. And I think it's something that as an English language learner, you need to really think about, is to not worry too much about the greenhouse, because the greenhouse, that's not real English. The garden, yeah, people speak with connected speech and what's your name? What's your name? Yeah, possibly. But the jungle, what's your name? That's the kind of pronunciation that we're going to hear and the kind of listening skills that we're going to need to develop. Let's give you another example. Okay, so that second question, where do you live? Where do you live? Okay, so that's the greenhouse example. Very clear. Where do you live? Then we go to the garden and be, where do you live? Where do you live? Where do you live? Yeah, so we've got a kind of shortened version of do and again in a weak form of you. So where do you live? Where do you live? And yeah, I might say that, it's possible. But when it comes to the jungle, where do you live? 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 So the do and the you blend together, they come together, ju. So where do you live? Where do you live? So that's that kind of wild, untamed version of the same sentence. We've gone from where do you live to where do you live to where do you live. Okay, so let's go with another example. What did he say? What did he say? Okay, let's move to the garden. What did he say? What did he say? Okay, what did he say? And then let's move to the jungle. What did he say? What did he say? Okay, what did he say? What did he say? All right, the sounds have completely changed. What did he say? What did he say? Oh, really? What did he say? Right, so you can hear it there. The sounds have completely changed. And as I say, this is something we really need to focus on in listening skills, is focusing in on these blended sounds, these auxiliaries that become unstressed and they change, right? They become weak forms, we have contractions, words blend together. That's what we need to focus on. So, we're gonna do a little practice right now. I've got 5 questions for you, all right? I'm gonna say them, first of all, in the jungle form, so the hardest form. I'm gonna say it twice. Then, and I want you to catch what have I said. Then I'm gonna say it in the garden form, okay, so with some connected speech. And then finally we'll look at the greenhouse form and you can see what it was. All right, so 5 sentences. Let's start with number 1. What do you want? 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 What does he do? 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 Where does she live? Where does she live? Where did she live? Where did she live? Where does she live? Where have you been? 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 Why'd you go? Why'd you go? Why did you go? Why did you go? Why'd you go? All right, how was that for you? Did you understand the jungle form? Or did you have to wait for the garden form to understand all the words? Or maybe you had to wait for the greenhouse. Now what I recommend is that you expose yourself to these sounds, and the best way to do that is, I think, through interviews and dialogues in TV series. So go onto YouTube, find an interview with your favorite singer or actor or whoever, or maybe you go and watch Peaky Blinders, for example, or something like that, a TV show, and just start to get a feel for these blended sounds, this sound mush, if you will. And if you would like more videos on pronunciation, then let me know in the comments below, okay? Today, I'm gonna show you how to pronounce 20 British brands perfectly. Now, I have done this video before.
Rolls Royce.
Yeah. You can see why I want to redo it, right?
Let's put that into an example sentence.
What is that hair?
Rolls Royce make engines.
All right, let's do this. Number 1, British fashion brand, Barbour. Barbour. Now this is a pronunciation lesson, guys, so say it with me, okay? Barbour. I just got a Barbour coat for Christmas. I just got a Barbour coat for Christmas. Quintessentially British, Rolls Royce. Rolls Royce. Now let's look at the pronunciation there. So you've got that little Z sound in the middle there. Rolls Royce. Rolls Royce. So Rolls Royce make engines for planes. Number 3, Marks and Spencer. This is a very popular shop and particularly a supermarket in Britain. Marks and Spencer. Now this is shortened down to M&S. M&S. So if Marks and Spencer is too long for you, you can just say M&S. So I'm just going to pop to M&S to get some food. Number 4, Hackett. Now you have the T at the end there. You can pronounce that T, so Hackett. Or, as I did there, I dropped that T at the end, so Hackett. I really want to get a Hackett suit. Number 5, Burberry. Burberry. The stress there on that first syllable. Burberry. So it's 3 sounds. Burberry. Burberry. I love your Burberry coat. Another fashion brand, Paul Smith. Paul Smith. You have that dark L sound there, Paul Smith. And that th sound on the TH, Paul Smith. There's a Paul Smith shop near Borough Market. Number 7, Fortnum and Mason. Fortnum and Mason. A really iconic shop in central London. Fortnum and Mason. Let's get them a Fortnum and Mason hamper for their wedding. Let's get them a Fortnum and Mason hamper for their wedding. Number 8, Cath Kidston. Cath Kidston. Right, so the Cath, again that th sound, that th, th, with the air coming out of your mouth, Cath. And then Kidston. Kidston. Now you could say Kidston or Kidston. It's kind of that T can get lost. So Cath Kidston or Cath Kidston. It's up to you. I love the patterns in Cath Kidston. Number 9, Dr. Martens. Now this can be pronounced as Doc Martens. Doc Martens. I'm going to buy a pair of Doc Martens when I visit London. Number 10, the tea brand, Twinings. Twinings. Not Twinnings, as I've heard it pronounced. Twinings. I'm going to get some Twinings tea for my grandma. I'm going to get some Twinings tea for my grandma. Number 11, Dyson. Dyson. They do incredible hand dryers and vacuum cleaners. I just bought a Dyson vacuum cleaner. I just bought a Dyson vacuum cleaner. Number 12, Harvey Nichols. Harvey Nichols. This is a department store, luxurious department store. Harvey Nichols. There's a Harvey Nichols in Hong Kong. There's a Harvey Nichols in Hong Kong. 13, Joe Malone. Joe Malone. Joe Malone do fragrances and things like that. I bought my partner some Joe Malone perfume. Number 14, Mulberry. Mulberry. A bit like Burberry, have that same sound, Mulberry. So you have the 3 sounds, Mulberry. Mulberry. I love your Mulberry bag. I love your Mulberry bag. Number 15, Dunhill. Dunhill. The stress there on that first syllable, Dunhill. I'd love to get a Dunhill wallet. 16, whiskey, Glenfiddich. Glenfiddich. Obviously this is of Scottish origin. Glenfiddich. My favourite whiskey is Glenfiddich. Number 17, commonly mispronounced, Tesco. A lot of people say Tesco's. In fact, I've said that many times, but it's actually Tesco. I'm just going to Tesco to buy some cheese. Young fashion brand, Jack Wills. Jack Wills. There's a sale on at Jack Wills. There's a sale on at Jack Wills. 19, Cadbury. Cadbury. Just the name makes me hungry. Okay, so this is all about chocolate. Cadbury is a famous chocolate brand. Let's say it again, Cadbury. My favourite chocolate is from Cadbury. And finally, number 20, British Airways. British Airways. Now, the thing about this one is that this is also shortened down. Just like Marks & Spencer was M&S, British Airways is shortened down to BA. BA. So who are you flying with? I'm flying with BA. I'm flying with British Airways. Okay, those were 20 British brands. Now, obviously, I've left many brands out. So, please let me know in the comments below which ones have I forgotten, and maybe I can do a part 2 to this video. Today, we're looking at the difference between the light L and the dark L. Alright, it's not the evil L, it's just the dark L. Honestly. Welcome back to another lesson. If you haven't met me before, my name is Tom and I teach fresh, modern British English so that you can take your English to the next level and achieve your life goals. Today we're looking at L and how it can be pronounced in 2 different ways. Let's start with the light L. Now we find the light L before a vowel sound and also it's usually found at the beginning of words. For example, look. Look. Now how do we make this sound? Well, the tongue is the most important thing. So place the tip of your tongue on the alveolar ridge. That is the top of your mouth. Now I place mine just behind my top teeth. There. Okay? So I place the tip of my tongue just behind my top teeth and I blow air out. Like that. Now it's a voiced sound, so you should feel a vibration in your throat. L. And then to release the sound, you release your tongue. So look, look, listen, listen. Examples of words with the light L: long, long, lemon, lemon, learn, learn, language, language, unless, unless, follow, follow. The dark L is usually found at the end of words, certainly before a consonant or as the final sound of a word. For example, help, help. Now to make this sound, our tongue is really important again. Now what we do here is not touching anything, and I bring it back. So to create the sound, I withdraw the tongue into my mouth, like this. Oh, oh. So for example, help, help. Okay, it sounds strange when I slow it down. Help. So my tongue is coming towards the back of my mouth, and that's creating the sound. Help. So the movement of my tongue there is really important. It's coming backwards and then finishing kind of pointing upwards. It's not touching anything, okay? That's really important. It's not touching the alveolar ridge or my teeth. It's just in my mouth, moves backwards and then upwards to finish the sound. So back and up. So full. It's important to note that not all British accents use the dark L. Most notably, a Cockney accent doesn't really use the dark L. There are various other sounds that might be used instead of it. So for example, instead of saying school, it will be school, school. Or full will be full, full. So it kind of disappears. I always think of it as having the same mouth shape as a w, school. I end my mouth in the same shape as a w sound, but I'm not saying w, I'm just making that shape. So school, pool, full. So the dark L will change and adapt depending on what vowel sounds there are in a Cockney accent. But anyway, let's get back to looking at a dark L and a light L and comparing the two sounds together. Now what's important to notice is the change of the L sound. So for example, take a word like tall, tall. I'm using the dark L sound there, tall, because it's at the end of the word. But if I make it a superlative, tallest, tallest, suddenly I've added EST. E is a vowel, so the L sound of tall has now gone from a dark L to a light L. So it's not tallest, it's tallest, tallest, tallest. So I'm now using the light L sound. So be aware that even if it's the same word, tall to tallest, more or less the same word, there is a change of sound depending on, what's around the main word. So we're using the vowel sound there of EST, so it becomes tallest. It's also important to look at words together. So for example, email address, email address. Email, we said, was a dark L sound, email, email. But if the next word begins with a vowel sound, that L turns from a dark L to a light L. So it's now email address, email address, email address. So it's not email address, it's email address. So I'm using the light L to blend those two words together. So yes, so it's not just about looking at the word individually, you have to look at the other words around it to help you to understand whether it's a dark L or a light L. Another example might be fall over, fall over. I fell over yesterday, I fell over yesterday. So we have fell, fell with the dark L, but now we've got over, which begins with a vowel. It's now fell over, fell over. So I'm using the light L to blend those two words together. All right, let's do a little practice sentence to use both the light L and the dark L. Listen to me first and then repeat afterwards. Okay, here we go. I love language lessons, said the tall girl at school. I love language lessons, said the tall girl at school. I love language lessons, said the tall girl at school. All right, so let's have a look at what L's we're using there. So, I love, the light L, language, light L again, lessons, again the light L, said the tall, dark L, girl, dark L, at school, school, dark L again. So you've got 3 light L's, 3 dark L's. I love language lessons, said the tall girl at school. Okay, your turn to practice. Okay, alright, let's do it one more time together. I love language lessons, said the tall girl at school. Practice, guys. That's the only way you're going to improve, is if you practice. Do it in a voice recorder, do it into the mirror, do it wherever you need to, but practice, practice, practice. Can you pass the OUGH pronunciation challenge? I'll give you the word with OUGH. You tell me how to pronounce it correctly. Rough. Though. Bought. Through. Plough. Cough. Thorough. Tough. Dough. Ought. Drought. Trough. Borough. This is a place in London. Enough. Although. Thought. Slough. This is a town to the west of London. Furlough. Naught. Brought. So as you can see, there are a variety of ways that we pronounce the OUGH. We have the UF of rough and tough. We have O like though and dough. We have OR like thought and bought. We have OU like through. We have OW like plough and slough. We have OFF, so cough and trough. And we have the schwa thorough, borough. There's no rule here, you just have to learn them individually. So for example, cough, you know it's that O sound, O, cough, cough. Whereas tough, you have to learn that it's an ah sound, so tough. And over time, you get used to pronouncing these words correctly. There aren't that many, don't worry too much, but the few that there are, try to get them right.